if I had remained in Nigeria, I would have died that year. I am fortunate, and that's why I say I am one of the very fortunate ones to be alive for somebody who comes from a low middle income country.
Dr. Denise Ejo, the CEO of Cornwall Cancer Foundation. I would like to welcome you to our Cornwall Cancer Foundation page. Our goal is to create an awareness of the challenges, support and guidance experienced in managing cancer care for sufferers, family, carers and friends. To engage with us, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Click our notification bell.
Okay, hello, my name is Dr. Denise Ejo. I am very proud to put the doctor in because I'll tell you why as we go along. I am the CEO of Cornwall Cancer Foundation, which was founded about 2-3 years ago as a result of being diagnosed with breast cancer with the metastasis of the brain. I was diagnosed in 2016, but in hindsight, I now realize that I must have had the disease for over a year. I struggled with very bad headaches, and we kept wondering why. And I was taking very, very strong painkillers. I had been to 3 hospitals in Lagos because I was born and brought up in Nigeria. I graduated, I went to school there, and I was living there at the time. I am fortunate, and I use the word fortunate because I am a dual national. And I think that's the only reason I am sitting here today. I had consistent headaches in 2015. And I just thought it was the stress of being a teacher, and I was heading a group of schools at the time, so 4 schools. So I just assumed they had to do with the workload and everything that was going on, only to one day drive and I didn't see the car next to me. So I just about hit it without damaging it or even scratching it. That's because I was driving very slowly. And to my greatest shock, I then said, look, I'd been to 3 hospitals, none. I went to 2 in Minna, no one could do anything. I went to 1 in Abuja, everybody kept giving me painkillers. Nothing's wrong with you, nothing's wrong with you. So I went back to Lagos and I thought, and someone said, oh, we've now got an MRI machine in a particular hospital. And I saw the doctor and he said, look, Denise, I've checked everything about you, your blood pressure, everything. There's nothing seemed to be wrong with you. So you know what we're going to do? Can you come and do this MRI? Our hospital now has one. So I thought, okay. At that point, I then had to source for the funds to get the treatment. And 3 days later, when my friends had all collected the money and everything, I now went and did the scan. It was very interesting because when I was lying on the bed, I'd never really done any of these serious scans, apart from having a baby. Never really done anything that was something you think about. And then, to my horror, the man said, is there anything wrong with you? Do you have blood pressure? Do you have... He started listing out all this diabetes. I said, no. I said, is there something wrong? Can you talk to me? He says, we seem to have found something. At this time, I don't know what something means. So, but I knew it was bad. I suspected because the headaches were very excruciatingly bad and I could no longer stand straight. So I realized that started to wobble and everywhere was dizzy. So I knew, yeah, something really was wrong. And he said, I have to put dye. So I said, what's dye? He said, there's something we're going to put in your blood so that we can see the photographs differently. So I thought, okay. And they did it and made me sign a consent. And they said, come back for your results. We've seen a few tumors. They didn't use the word tumors. They used a particular word, which I've chosen to blank out for. I think, you know, sometimes you just close the door on something that you really don't want to remember. But it was tumors. That's what it's called now. But I didn't know what it was then. You've got a few in your brain. We don't really know what it is. So can you come back for your results the following day? I thought, okay. And following day, I went off, and I chose not to open the result. And this was a Friday. I'd done the scan on Tuesday. No, I'd been told on Tuesday. I saw the doctor on Monday. I'd been told on Tuesday we had to do the scan. I had to raise the money and then come back for the scan on Thursday. And then on Friday, the man said to me, I said, so what is in it? He said, I can't tell you, you've got to read it. And then they gave me this disc. And in this disc had apparently the photographs. Till today, I don't know what it looks like because I never opened it. And I read the first line, and it said, it gave me about 6 different cancers that I could have. And it said life expectancy was 3 months maximum.
Wow.
So I thought, all right, that is very good. I looked at my kids and I said, you know what? I'm going back home. And my youngest child at the time was just gone into secondary school. She was 11. And that really broke my heart because I started to think, okay, what is this? What is this? And then the journey started. The next day, my friends actually collected money that night, and I got a ticket out to board the first flight out the next day.
And so what made you decide to go back to the UK? Because you knew already that access to treatment wasn't available in Nigeria.
Yes, there's still no access to treatment in Nigeria, even as of today, except you have money. And I realized I didn't have it. So I am very factual about it. If I had remained in Nigeria, I would have died that year. I am fortunate, and that's why I say I am one of the very fortunate ones to be alive for somebody who comes from a low middle income country. Yes, I am fortunate because no, there is no access. Like I said, I had to raise the money to get the MRI scan done. And then my friends donated money and helped me to get my ticket. And I left my youngest child in Nigeria and had to come back. And later when I found that, when I got in, I think I got in on Saturday, I saw the doctors on Monday, and I was hospitalized by Monday because the mass, that was the word they were using. I told you, I chose not to remember it, the mass. And then they said to me it was swollen. So you've got a lot of liquid in your brain, we've got to get it down. And I went on steroids and I was hospitalized for a week. Within that time, that was when I realized what cancers are, how you work out cancers. As soon as I got to the general, and that was in England, they said to me, oh, you've just got a headache, you can go. And I said, no, I'm not going anywhere because I already knew. So I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. You got to do a scan. And by the time I got downstairs, they said, no, refer her urgently to get it done. And within a week, we started to work on having the surgery, brain surgery, and I had it 2 weeks after, the day before my daughter turned 12. And I couldn't tell her till I'd finished.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was my start of my journey, or my cancer journey in 2016. They gave me a list of cancers and we were going to start. And the doctor said to me, I recommend you go to India because I'm not sure we have anybody who can do it for you here. And that is still this. So what I want us to get is that is still the state it is now, if not worse. So we have to be honest about it. That is, it's not changed. The doctors, the health system does not provide for everybody. So it's the 5% that can afford it that can get treated.
Sorry, can we redo that?
Following the discussions, I then found out that when I spoke to the doctor who I eventually saw, he said to me, Denise, we can't cure you in Nigeria. You're not going to make it based on your results. So I would suggest you go to India and we will try and arrange for you to get out to India immediately. And I said, no, I'm going to the UK immediately. And at that point, I did go back to Nigeria that year after my surgeries, after my first brain surgery. I then had to have gamma knife surgery, and that is definitely not available in Nigeria. A lot of people who have had the surgeries I've had, because I've had 3 brain surgeries as of today, would not have made it at this point. I can sit in here tell you within the last 12 months of quite a few people that have died from the attempt to have brain surgery in the public system. Okay, so in the private system, it's very expensive, but you can get it. So, but what is the population? Nigeria has over 200 million people. What is the population of people that can access any care, bearing in mind? And even then, even chemo drugs, no, it's not available. So I fly when I'm working, because I work from both countries. Whenever I'm traveling, I work, because my cycles are 3 weeks. I will fly back. So I go out to Nigeria, do what I've got to do, come back, and make sure I'm back in time to do my treatment, because my treatment is for life. So we've got to be honest about it. But I know for a fact, anybody with my disease without any money is dead. Sad to say. It's quite heartbreaking whenever I talk about it, actually.
It's very sad.
It's very sad.
Very sad, yeah. So it means that people in low and middle income countries cannot, they die.
Well, I would say to you that, you see, I'm very glad that I'm not glad in that sense, but I am privileged to say that for some reason, and I always say to people, I believe God holds me on this journey, because I would not be able to talk about this. It first took 3 years, and I know why cancer patients don't talk about it, because of stigmatization, because of the way people look at you. In our culture, in the African culture, or like, let me go to Nigeria, I was talking to a very high-profile advocate, and I said, why can't I raise funds for my NGO? I only do awareness. And she said, Denise, honestly, it's because you are not really deemed as somebody that would live long. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I've come to terms with that, so that's fine, but I've lived 6.5 years. So I could have given up, which a lot of people are forced to give up. I had an interview on my program, because I do television awareness, and I had to ask that same question. So when you find people that have cancer, what next? And the truth is, unless you have the money, no, nothing next. You just go through it. I try not to use the word die, but yeah. Yes.
And so, what is your foundation? So you're doing awareness with your foundation?
Yes.
In Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay.
I followed my disease as soon as I was diagnosed, and I had gone through the first year, because it was intense. I found out then that I have breast cancer with a metastasis to the brain, and then I was explained that it was a stage 4 cancer, and we had to work through the process. And nobody could give me promises, which is fair. I agree with that. And we start the drug cycle. I have been on chemo for the last 6.5 years, every day. So my foundation came about in 2019 because when I got diagnosed, I am quite spiritual in my personal life prior to the disease. And I just asked God, I said, God, why do I have to live? Because if I'm going to live, it must be used for something, and it must be used to help others. If not, I don't think my children deserve to go through the struggles I see a lot of families go through. And my mom had died of cancer a year before, which was heart-wrenching for me, because I was diagnosed less than a year after she died. So you can imagine I was not meeting anybody halfway. And I started the foundation. I named it after my grandparents. So Cormod is my mother's maiden name, and I named it after her. My grandmother, her mother also had cancer, so it was important to me. The foundation specifically creates awareness. So we have television programs every week now, creating awareness. And our dedication for 2023. 2020 was when we started on with registrations, because I made sure all the documentation in Nigeria was done properly as an NGO. And once we were able to get that done, we launched during COVID. We started online with an online program every month, talking to people, and I was talking about my journey, trying to get people to know, you know what, this is where I am. I'm not promised a tomorrow, but for every day I have life, I want to make a difference. The challenges have come out over the years, and I can now see the pain that cancer patients go through, where I tell people, you are not sitting on our chair, and you think you understand our journey, and you think you understand our life, and you really don't. So firstly, do not ever say you understand what a cancer patient is going through, no matter what you're saying. And those are very spiritual. I'm like, don't ever come and say it is well, because what is well? It is not well. So don't patronize us. Talk to us, be there for us, engage with us, love us, but just let us navigate this journey and let us direct you on how we want you to be part of our lives, not you telling us how to go, because in Nigeria, that is our biggest challenge. I get there and I'm told, oh, you need to take this. I mean, a lot of people are told you don't take chemo. What do you mean you don't take chemo? You take chemo. I've just spoken to someone just coming up, which is why I ran a bit late. I was called about a patient who has been taking chemo, and apparently she's got stage 1 breast cancer. And I'm thinking, really? Stage 1? And they want to do a mask. I said, no. Can I get this? Can you guys get this rechecked? And that's what I do. So so I've got now a group of people who I've come to terms with the fact that we have all got different strengths as NGOs. I have fortunately got television space. I'm trying to build 2023 the radio space in the local languages. That's what I want for 2023, to be able to raise funds to do that, because that one will hit another group of people. I will be speaking in our we have 3 major languages plus Pidgin English. On my website, or on my, what's it called? My YouTube channel, yeah. You can see advocacy in as many different the 3 different Nigerian languages for some, but we need the funding to be able to get the recordings done. So that is what we're doing, but it's mainly, and we say, together we fight, together we win. We are not promised a tomorrow as a cancer patient. And the faster people learn that and make the best of your everyday, I think is the best way forward. Because our mental health is not good. I now use a walking stick. I was a teacher. I used to run after the kids. I used to tell them off. Now I can't do that. We're not financially able to work anymore. I mean, I was just looking at this. I was talking to a few people in Nigeria and here, because I work within the minority groups all over the world. So I was like, how are you guys coping with cost of energy? Most of us can't put our heaters on. And I'm not an exception. So I always like them to understand that I am not different from you. I can't do it either. So I get 2 hours of the heating bills and everything else. Because if not, I can't pay it. So let's not make out that we are all financially we're not. We don't have that. We don't have the luxuries of hospital appointments. I think most countries in the world, you pay for hospitals. But in England, we luckily have the NHS. Yeah? But I'm not old enough to be pensioned out. So you find yourself in a catch-22, and the next question is, so what am I going to do with this? And to me, together we fight, together we win. I am not giving up. I ain't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I've started a new chemo, which has affected me in the last 1 year. I had a brain surgery in 2023.
Again?
Yeah, my 3rd one. I just had the 3rd one. In fact, I just started wearing my glasses again. because it was affecting my eyes. But hopefully I will get them redone. But see, those are all expenses that we can't afford. They're not luxuries that we cancer patients can afford. We can't. It's a fact of life. So our lifestyle changes, our needs change, our mental health is challenged. I'm going into counseling. I've asked to be in counseling and I start on Thursday. I chose it because I have to be honest with myself. And that's one thing I appeal to cancer patients. Say it as it is. What's my message to the public globally? We live a life that most decision makers, you don't know how we are. But I will appeal to the globe today. Reach out. Support our drives. Remember, we didn't choose to be where we are. And for as long as we don't have access to healthcare, we don't have a chance. And that means that at a very early stage in our lives, whenever we've been diagnosed, wherever in the world, we have been told that, without being funny, but we will not make it. And so to all decision makers, whatever you do, whatever you're planning, whatever your projects are, always remember, we are human. We do need your support, and we need you to remember that we can't afford it. Is why we are in the position we are in. If we could afford it, we would not be here. More research, more. It's closing the health gap. Close the health gap for us, please. Close it, narrow it. I am of Nigerian heritage, and it's heart-wrenching to have to talk about where I come from, knowing fully well that my counterparts do not make it. Thank you very much. As a cancer survivor in a low middle income country, I am now in a position to talk about the challenges we face, and I'm going to list some so the public, you understand where we're coming from. I was diagnosed with this disease as a cancer survivor with a disease that over the last 6.5 years, I have had quite a lot of surgeries. And in hindsight, I now realize that the disease had it long, at least a year before I actually found out. For those of us from low middle income countries, one of the things I'd like us to recognize is there are less than 70 oncologists in my country, Nigeria, with a population of over 2 million people, well, 200 million. So our challenges are real. We have one PET scan machine, which is privately owned, and it costs £500 for anybody to get treated. So I'm trying to show the life that the average Nigerian and where we are. We don't have any palliative centers. So anybody that is palliative, unless you're in private, you're not going to get it. We don't have a cancer center owned by the government that has been officially taken over by any hospital. We don't. We have some that have now been commissioned, and we're still waiting to be able to access them. When you look at the treatment options, we have very limited treatment options, and like I would say, a lot of us don't access the drugs easily. We don't have access to the equipment or the tools and the things that you need to be able to get. There's this multidisciplinary treatment process that is globally recognized. Unfortunately, even though it's something that is supposed to be, unless you can afford it, you will get your cancer treatment if you can, or wherever you can get it up to. However, what happens to your mental health? What happens to your physiotherapist? What happens to your occupational therapist? What happens to your counselor? All those are extra funds that the people don't have. And so from mine, I sit from a place of where I come from with a lot of pride. I was born and brought up in Nigeria. I used the public hospitals as a child. I would not as a child. I refused to go private when I was younger. And I even had typhoid fever when it first came out on the continent when I was a teenager. But I was admitted in a public hospital in a small town in Nigeria as a teenager, and I got through it. Today, it's not available. And to me, that is the biggest and most heart-wrenching of everything that I have learned on my cancer journey. And I hope everybody realizes that there is a need to help us to survive. We have a right to live, and we want to live. Give us the tools to be able to live. Thank you. And one of my biggest messages is that I grew up in Nigeria. I was born and brought up in Nigeria. I was sick in Nigeria as a child. I had typhoid fever. And I went to the state hospital. I refused to go private. I went to public hospital, and I was admitted there, and I was in a coma there. But I got through it. I had typhoid fever at the time where it was just coming to Nigeria. But I made it. Today, is that what we're saying? Is that what I have? No, everything's changed. We've lost it. And I appeal to everyone, remember, we have also got a right to live. We've gone through it. We're going through it. We need you to recognize that as you have a life to live, rights to live, help us to be able to have a right to live. Thank you.